The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted all of us, from our health to job losses. It's also impacted many of our homeless population. To talk about some of the challenges of our homeless, the working poor, and those with serious addictions is Ken Kissick. He's the co-founder of Streets Alive Mission here in Lethbridge. Ken, welcome back to Bridge City News.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Can you share a little bit about how the street population has responded to the pandemic and how they fared so far here in our city?
The pandemic has been hard on our street population, not so much from the point of view of the actual disease of COVID. Um, a lot of them have managed to get through that without too much difficulty, but it's the closing of a lot of services and things that they were used to accessing, the library, the provincial building. Um, and it created a real problem in them being able to get into certain places or through the winter. A lot of stores and places were closed, so it was cold. Here through the heat wave, now that we're just opening, it was difficulty to find places for them to be able to get in. All their normal things were lost. And so there was a group of us. Streets Alive became a warming center. It became a cooling center. Right now, in the midst of all the smoke and everything else, people are able to come in, get out from the air quality. Kind of the upside of having a bunch of masks around is now the masks are advantageous during the smoke. But it's been hard on them.
Yeah, absolutely. So you don't breathe in a lot of that particulate matter, when it comes to the smoke. You're right, the poor air quality. Ken, have you noticed an increase in the homeless population or maybe in the number of addictions because of the pandemic, with people losing their jobs?
The other thing that we certainly have noticed is in the area of addictions. The drug use, the number of cases that we deal with in terms of overdoses has certainly gone up. Now there was a kind of a combination of the fact that the one site, the supervised consumption site, was shut down, which created some problems. But the other has been the lack of actually the pure drugs, because the borders closed. There's been a lot of dirty drugs that have shown up, and it's created a problem. We have seen haven't seen that much of an increase in the homeless population because of job loss, but there's always the transient population, and our homeless population is becoming more significant as the city itself grows. Um, One of the upsides that's been here because of COVID is the Blood Tribe Band has done an excellent job of really stepping up, looking to help their people. And they opened two shelters out on the reserve through the winter months. They have a much better addictions and healthcare system, so we're trying to move people to them. But we still have a population of people here in the community that are struggling with addictions and drugs, alcohol, that create the problems that put them on the street.
Ken, does your ministry work with the Sage Clan as well? I know they're out helping a lot of the homeless, with water bottles and such. Do you work with that organization as well?
Yeah, actually, one of the greatest things that happened uh, through COVID was the creation originally of the Lethbridge City of Lethbridge COVID response group. We used a communication item called Slack, and we created this group. Streets Alive was asked by the city to lead the addictions and recovery pod and the outreach and basic needs pods. Uh, but what has happened is that is now called Lethbridge Helping Organizations, and we have really banded together. So, as an example, going into the summer, we knew we were going to need water. The two food banks led that up and reached out. Instead of a bunch of us kind of reaching out, we have close to 40,000 bottles of water available. And so organizations like the Sage Clan, the helping agencies, My City Care, that has their outreach to the prostitutes, everybody was able to access that water. It's been great. This is the first year that we've actually been proactive rather than reactive. And yes, we work with the Sage Clan. We work with We're working with the group that is transporting people out to the reserve. Any way we can help that population, we're working with groups.
So it sounds like you've got a good handle on the water situation. What about other supplies the ministry may need, including maybe masks, especially right now during the smoky conditions?
Um, Again, because we were declared an essential service at the beginning of this, we were able to access PPE through the government, and they recently they've been pushing out the supplies, the oversupply they have, and so we're well stocked, courtesy of the government.
Now, can you give us an update on the Segway home? I know it was a little controversial when it was set up on the city's south side, but it seems to be making a big difference in the lives of women who are in need of a safe place.
Actually, the Segway home is been open since December 3rd. Um, it's been a bit of a learning curve because we were moving from managing 4 women to now the up to as many as 17. Currently have 9. But yes, it's making a huge difference in the ability for us to be able to help women in recovery. As well, our men's program has grown. We've acquired another housing unit that houses 16 men in our stage 2 recovery, and so both our men's and women's recovery program are in growth mode right now.
So, Ken, talk to me a little bit more about the Exodus Men's Life Recovery Program. Really explain the impact it's having on men in our region here.
Well, so again, one of the things that Streets Alive has been involved in for almost 30 years is helping people recover from addictions. And we've been doing men's programming for 22 years, and we've been doing women's for 10. And we have been enhancing these programs over the last few years. In fact, we are currently actually developing in the last stages of developing our what we call our addictions recovery psychology portion of that, so that we can actually get accredited, not so much as a treatment center, but as an in-depth recovery center for both the men and the women. We've been excited about our men. We currently have the ability to have 35 men in our program. We currently have about 21. Um, we just graduated our 8th man into who has spent 1 year sobriety, and so that's very exciting for us. We've probably had well over 40 90-day celebrations of guys that have got through 90 days, and so this makes a big difference for a lot of the men in recovery, as well as the women. Our whole purpose is to help them recover, to grow, and to be able to come back into a productive lifestyle. We are faith-based, so a lot of our programming and direction has the biblical worldview edge to it. Um, that people can enter. Faith is not an issue for entry. Most of them, however, when they leave, are people of faith. They Because without Christ, we are unable to really totally recover. And it's been really exciting to watch men and women, when they let Christ in, actually move forward in huge leaps. But it's a bit of a walk to get them to that place.
So, Ken, what do you say to people who are approached by someone who's homeless, maybe has an addiction issue? Should we send them to you, Streets Alive? How do we handle a situation like that to really help our most vulnerable here in our city?
Right now, if somebody runs across someone who is actively, let's say, using, okay, and they're struggling and they need to go somewhere, they need to send them to Alpha House, which is Alpha House runs not only the emergency shelter, but it also runs the stabilization and detox unit. And they have a system to be able to move them through that. If they are individuals um, who don't appear to be using, they're just looking, they want to get into recovery, they need a better place, they can certainly be sent to us. Um, uh, but we work hand in hand with Alpha House with Fresh Start Community Recovery Center. That's the old uh, Southern or the South Country Treatment Center, and we exchange people back and forth with the idea to get them through into full recovery.
Ken, let's talk about some success stories of people who've maybe gone through your program, came to know Christ, and are now leading a clean, sober life.
Well, I can talk about. I won't use his real name. We'll call him Brian. Brian came to us about 15 months ago, full blown meth addict. And this was his first time in any kind of treatment or recovery. He was very apprehensive about the faith base. He was not a believer. He didn't believe in God or anything else. Um, about 2 months into the program, he recognized that he needed greater help. He received Christ, and his life dramatically turned. Currently, that Brian is working with us. He's employed by us. He is part of our men's recovery team. Uh, he is an assistant, uh, what we call a client assistant. Um, he has regained visitation rights to his daughters. He is establishing himself within the community, fully productive. Um, and he's just one of 5 men that have gone through that, because one of the other things that we do with the men program and the women's program, when they reach a certain point, stage 3, we try and employ them for a period of time, uh, 90-day cycles, which gives them both sobriety and an employment as they reach out. Because a lot of these guys have been out of work for years, and so they need that help.
That's tremendous. Let's talk about maybe help that you may need in the form of more volunteers. How are you doing in that aspect?
Um, the volunteers that we need, because we've made some changes that have just happened in the community, but we still need volunteers with what we're calling our repurpose centers. So that's a new enterprise that also started during COVID, but it's basically sorting through clothing and furniture and stuff like that. We still need some volunteers to make sandwiches. Um, because we are doing a certain amount of help for Alpha House and different places where we're providing sandwiches. And we could use some volunteers just in our pin bank downstairs at the mission. So there's lots of opportunity, and they can just go to our website, go to volunteers, and fill out the application.
Now, Ken, a big part of helping to turn people's lives around is providing a solid education. Tell me a bit more about the Ask Learning Center. What is it all about?
So the Ask Learning Center has now been converted into what we call Genesis Connect for Women. Okay, and it's located. Um, we have a separate location from the mission. It is a place where the women who are in the program come. That's where the classes are held. It's also where they do what we call DIY. So there's a creative element to do them. So they do arts. They do glass work. They make certain things, journals and everything else. Those items are then put up for sale at the front end of that building. Now, of course, COVID shut us down for almost well over a year and a bit, but we're hoping to get reopened here by the end of summer, where people will be able to come in, purchase the items that have been made by the women, and then it just helps to run the program. On top of that, again, the men and women we've increased our addictions recovery scope. And so that there's classes that happen there. There's, things that go after what we call the trauma, led by, specialized people. We provide counseling assistance to them. But the Genesis Connect Center is strictly for women. The men's center is actually located in the Repurpose Center. So both have places where they gather, where they're able to come together and enjoy one another. That was one of the biggest pluses during COVID, because we were declared an emergency or an essential service and recovery was essential, the group limitations didn't apply to our groups. And so they were able to maintain uh, a semblance of community. And so their mental health is a little bit better than others that we've seen.
Now, we only have about a moment left here. Ken, quickly tell us about this fundraising golf tournament you have coming up July 23rd.
Oh yeah, we're excited about our golf tournament. This is one of our major fundraisers for our Exodus Men program. I believe we have a few spots left, teams to come in. It's all about fun. We have 8 or 9 different games you'll play as you come around. We have great prizes. Because COVID restrictions are lifted, there's going to be a steak dinner at the end. And so if you just want, go to the website, type in golf and it'll come up, register, and we'd love to have you. The weather's supposed to be great. There's some challenges, and like I said, there's some good prizes, 50-inch TVs, some golfing equipment. Everybody's going to get a jacket with our logos, so we're excited.
Ken Kissick is the co-founder of Streets Alive Mission here in Lethbridge. Ken, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, and may you have a great day.
You as well. On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless. Thanks so much for watching.